Welcome to another episode of Inspired Content. I'll be watching a movie tonight called Boxtrolls off of Netflix. And I'll take a look at that and see what ideas it inspires, and I'll see you on the other side. Welcome back after Boxtrolls. I will give this a 4.6 out of 6.2. I would say it wasn't bad. It was a fun adventure, and it's got some action and some quirky fun to it. But I think that it's a little weak on the world building and the backstory. There are a lot of things that you just have to accept as they're happening because that's what the story works with. They don't explain it, and there's no greater understanding to be found there. Things just happen because that's what the story needs it to do. And the art is beautiful. So I mean, it's a decent, fun movie to watch. But some of the ideas it inspires would be taking some of those story elements and expanding on them a little bit differently. Red hats are a reference to exterminators, but in other mythologies, red hats are usually a type of goblin that dip their caps in the blood of people they've killed to gain power from them. So the idea of maybe taking that a little bit further, instead of having just people who wear red hats be exterminators, instead maybe having them be a different type of troll or goblin. And the people of the town have hired one set of goblins to get rid of another set of trolls. That might be an interesting play on playing one group against another and doing it in a way that they really should be on the same side. It could be a good commentary on how we handle relations between different types of groups in our societies now. I couldn't help but feel at a certain point that the main villain could have easily been made to be a troll that had tried to get rid of his trollness and try to be human. And the idea of taking that to a level where, what if he really was a troll that was exchanged like a changeling for a human, and he tried to grow up as a human, but he could never really seem to blend into the human society. So he's still trying to do it, and he resents the fact that people see him as just like those other trolls. So he's trying to destroy them for that. What if you had something like the Changeling stories, or the Boxtrolls taking in a human child? But they'd been doing it so long that there really weren't any trolls left. It was just all the children that they had taken in over the years, being raised as Boxtrolls, but they're just humans. It'd be sort of like Peter Pan's Lost Boys, almost. What if the trolls are not in the boxes, but are the boxes? Sort of like how it's felt in some mythologies that a object can kind of take on a mirroring spirit of the thoughts and actions that take place around it until it becomes a being of its own. There's a bit in this story where there's a singing performer who tells the story of the Boxtrolls, and for a brief moment I entertained the idea that the singing performer was a woman whose goal was to get into an office of prestige and power that in the Victorian society that this takes place in is not really allowed to women. So maybe she was trying to convince people when she's not on stage performing that she is one of the red hats, and trying to use that false male persona to gain office and prestige that are not traditionally allowed to a woman in that time frame. And she's needing to get rid of the Boxtrolls in order to do that, so that she doesn't have to provide references or a backstory, that she can kind of just win that role instead of having to explain how she just shows up and nobody knows who he was before. During the course of the story, it kind of feels like it doesn't matter if the city council, who's obsessed with cheese and nothing else, stays in power, or if the villain, who's obsessed with getting into power and nothing else, achieves power. Because quite frankly, they don't seem to be making decisions based on what's good for everybody else in the city. They're just trying to be whatever it is they're obsessed with being that. And you could try to change that, but there's a part of me that wonders, what if that was a really key point to the story? The story is about the daughter and the boy and the trolls, and they're kind of caught in the middle of this exchange of power, that it doesn't matter who's in power either way. They don't care about the characters that we're following. It's just about surviving the fact that there are these two people that neither of them, it doesn't matter to you who wins or who loses, neither of them care about you, and just kind of surviving that whole process and what it means to them to find a place where they do matter in the underside of that city. Alright, well, so those are the ideas I got from this movie. I'll see you next week for another episode. Take care.